This happened a few years ago, back when I was still in college. I was looking for a cheap weekend getaway with my girlfriend. Nothing fancy, just somewhere quiet where we could disappear for a couple of days. I found the cabin on Airbnb. It was in the Blue Ridge Mountains, not far from the Appalachian Trail, and the price was lower than anything else in the area. Same cozy photos, same mountain retreat description, just cheaper. There weren't many reviews, but the ones that were there were short and neutral. No complaints, no red flags. At the time, that was enough for us. We weren't chasing a vibe, we were just trying to save money. The drive up was normal, winding roads, spotty service, trees getting thicker the higher we went. By the time we reached the cabin, it was late afternoon. It sat near a small lake, tucked back from the road. Not abandoned, just isolated. The cabin itself looked exactly like the photos. Wood siding, small porch, single story. Nothing wrong with it, nothing off. But the quiet was heavy, not peaceful, just empty. My girlfriend joked about it being too quiet, and I laughed it off. That's why people come to the mountains, right? Inside, everything was clean, but outdated. Old furniture, scratched floors, a faint smell of damp wood. There was a printed binder on the table. House rules, checkout instructions, Wi-Fi password, normal stuff. What stood out was a single line near the back. Please avoid swimming in the lake. No explanation, no warning signs outside, just that sentence. We shrugged it off. Cold mountain water, probably. Liability thing. That night was fine. We cooked, watched a movie, slept with the windows cracked. No noises, no bad dreams, nothing yet. The next morning we walked down to the lake. It wasn't big, more like a wide pond, ringed by trees. The water was dark, almost still. There was a small wooden dock, old but sturdy. No boats, no life vests, no signs. My girlfriend asked again about swimming. I said probably not worth it. That's when we noticed something nailed to the side of the dock. A small metal plaque, no dates, no name. Just the word, remember. The rest of the day felt off. Not scary. Just uncomfortable in ways I couldn't explain. Sounds didn't travel right. Our voices felt swallowed by the trees. At one point, my girlfriend asked if I'd walked outside while she was in the shower. I hadn't. Later, I thought I heard movement near the lake. When I looked, the water was perfectly still. That night, neither of us slept well. No nightmares, just constant waking, like something was interrupting us on purpose. The next morning, we finally checked the reviews more carefully. Buried between generic comments was one that had been edited. It said something like, "Beautiful area, sad history, we didn't stay the full weekend." That was it. I searched the cabin address online. It didn't take long. A local news article came up from years earlier. A child had drowned in the lake. It was a family vacation, a summer rental. A kid wandered down to the water alone. No one saw it happen. By the time they found him, it was too late. The article mentioned the lake was deceptively deep near the dock. Cold water, sudden drop-off, no charges, no lawsuit, just a quiet tragedy. The cabin address matched exactly. We didn't talk much after that. We packed early, but decided to stay one last night since we'd paid for it. That evening, we heard splashing. Not loud, not frantic, just steady movement in the water. We didn't go outside. Around midnight, the sound stopped. That was worse. The next morning, we left early. As we loaded the car, I noticed wet footprints on the dock. Small ones. They stopped before reaching the cabin. We didn't take photos. We didn't confront the host. We didn't leave a review. We just drove away. We never went back. But I still think about that cabin sometimes, about how cheap it was, how few reviews it had, how easy it would have been to ignore that one line about the lake. The listing disappeared a month later. Sometimes when I drive near lakes now, I hear it again, that same muffled crying sound like it's coming from beneath the water. I don't know what happened to that kid, but I know one thing. Whatever didn't drown in that lake never left it either. My name is Emily Carter. This happened on October 14, 2018. I remember the date because it was the first quiet weekend I had in months. I was 26 years old, working full-time, recently single. I was tired in a way sleep did not fix. Hiking had always helped me reset. No music, no distractions, just walking and breathing. That Sunday morning, I drove out to a familiar stretch of the Appalachian Trail in Western Virginia. Nothing extreme, nothing remote. I packed light, water, snacks, my phone. I planned to be back at my car before sunset. The weather was perfect for October. Cool air, dry ground, leaves just starting to change. The trail was active earlier in the day. A few couples, a solo hiker, a family with kids. We smiled, nodded, passed each other. Around noon, I stepped off the trail to use the bathroom. Just far enough to feel private, not far enough to feel risky. When I came back, I followed what I thought was the same path. It felt right. It looked right. So I kept walking. At first, nothing felt wrong. The trees looked the same. The ground felt familiar. But after about 20 minutes, I noticed something. I had not seen another person. No voices. No footsteps. I checked my watch. Still early. Then I realized I had not seen a trail marker in a while. I told myself I must have missed one. That happens. Another 10 minutes passed. Still no markers. The ground felt different now. Softer, less worn. I checked my phone. I had signal, but the GPS icon kept drifting, spinning, snapping back, drifting again. I stopped walking. That was when the air felt wrong. Not quiet. Muted. Like sound was not moving correctly. I turned around. At first, I followed my own footprints, then leaves covered them. After that, I could not tell which way I came from. 10 minutes passed, then 15. Nothing looked familiar. Trees blended together. Landmarks vanished. I called out once. My voice sounded small, thin, like it did not belong there. That was when panic stopped being optional. I told myself not to run. Instead, I picked a downhill direction, thinking water, thinking roads. The light changed faster than I expected. Shadows stretched unevenly. My phone battery dropped quicker than it should have. I checked the time again, late afternoon. That was when I admitted the truth. I was not getting out before nightfall. I found a shallow dip between two trees and sat down. I did not build a fire. I did not move much. Time stopped behaving normally. Minutes felt stretched. I checked my phone again and again. The clock barely moved. At one point, I heard someone whisper my name, not loud, close. I did not answer. Every sound felt intentional. Branches cracking sounded closer than they should have. Footsteps felt slow, measured, not rushing, not searching, just present. I held my breath until my chest hurt. My legs cramped. My hands went numb. I did not sleep. I just waited for the sky to change. Every sound felt intentional. When the light finally came, I cried, not from relief, from exhaustion. I stood up slowly. My legs shook so badly I had to lean against a tree. Daylight made the woods look calmer, but they still felt wrong, like nothing had happened, like I had imagined it. When the light finally came, I cried, not because I was safe, because I was still there. I stood up slowly. My legs shook so badly I had to lean against a tree just to stay upright. The woods looked different in daylight, less threatening, but still wrong, like I had seen them without permission. I started walking again, slower now, not trusting direction, just instinct. Late that morning, I found trash, a crushed water bottle, a food wrapper. I had never been so relieved to see litter in my life. Not long after, I heard metal hitting metal. A road. I stumbled out near a small town just before noon. A gas station, 2 cars, people moving normally. Someone asked if I was okay. I could not answer right away. I did not need rescuing. I did not make the news, but something stayed with me. The trail did not chase me. The woods did not threaten me. They just kept going while I disappeared for a while, and that scares me more than anything else. We took our son camping to try to feel normal again. Life had been loud lately, busy, work, school coming up, bills, schedules. We wanted one quiet weekend where nothing was expected of us. We chose a campground near a lake in the Appalachian region. Nothing remote, nothing extreme, families everywhere, kids riding bikes, campfires already going. It felt safe. That mattered to us. Our son was 8 years old. Curious, loud, always moving, the kind of kid who never stayed bored for long. He loved animals more than toys, dogs especially. If there was a dog anywhere nearby, he would notice it before anyone else. At the time, that felt harmless. We arrived mid-afternoon. The lake was calm, the air was warm, everything smelled like pine and sunscreen. Other parents waved, kids shouted across campsites. We unpacked, set up, let ourselves relax. Nothing about the place felt wrong. There were signs posted near the water. Deep drop-offs, cold temperatures, sudden changes in depth. We read them, we talked about them. We told our son to stay close and never go near the water alone. He promised. We believed him. Later that afternoon, our son pointed toward the tree line. There was a dog standing just inside the woods, medium-sized, dark fur, no collar. It did not move closer. It did not move away. It just stood there. Our son waved. The dog did not react. Something about the dog made me uncomfortable. Not aggressive, not friendly, just watching. I told our son not to go near it. He nodded and came back to us. The dog disappeared into the trees. I told myself I was overthinking it. We were setting up dinner when it happened. Someone laughed nearby. A cooler lid slammed shut. Normal campground noise. Our son asked if he could walk down to the lake to skip rocks. We said yes. We watched him walk away. A sharp bark cut through the noise. Sudden. Close. Our son turned his head toward the trees. That was the last clear image we have of him. A second later, he was out of view. At first, we were not alarmed. Kids wander, campgrounds are busy. But 5 minutes passed, then 10. We called his name. No answer. The lake kept moving like nothing had happened. We started walking faster, calling louder. Other parents joined in when they saw our faces. Flashlights came out. Voices echoed across the trees. The dog was gone. So was our son. Rangers arrived after dark. They asked questions we struggled to answer. What was he wearing? When was the last time we saw him? Did he know how to swim? The lake became the focus. That was when fear turned into something heavier. Someone found marks near the tree line. Not footprints, drag marks. The rangers did not explain them. They did not need to. We did not sleep. We watched flashlights move through the woods, heard radios crackle. Every hour that passed felt wrong. Too quiet, too slow. They found our son just after sunrise. Alive, cold, exhausted, barely responsive. He was sitting against a tree deep in the woods, knees pulled to his chest, staring at the ground like he was listening to something we could not hear. He did not cry when they called his name. He did not run to us. He just looked up slowly, like it took effort. That was the first moment we knew something was wrong. At the hospital, doctors asked him questions. Where did you go? Were you scared? Did you fall asleep? He answered some things. He said he followed the dog. He said he thought it knew where it was going. After that, his answers stopped making sense. When they asked how he got so far into the woods, he shrugged. When they asked where he slept, he said he did not remember sleeping. When they asked what he did all night, he said he stayed quiet because it was better that way. No one pushed him after that. We went home 2 days later. Our son sat in the back seat the entire drive, staring out the window. He flinched when trees passed too close to the road. He did not ask questions. He did not sing. He did not talk about the dog. At home, he slept with the lights on. If the house went quiet, he would get up and find us. He was never the same after that weekend. He stopped liking animals, especially dogs. If one barked nearby, he froze. He stopped wandering, stopped exploring. He asked us to check the woods behind our house before he went outside. Sometimes at night, we would hear him whispering in his room. When we asked who he was talking to, he said no one. Months later, he said something that still makes my stomach turn. We were driving past a wooded area when he asked us to slow down. He looked out the window and said he did not like places where the trees were too close together. When we asked why, he said, because that is where things can watch without being seen. We asked him who told him that. He said the dog did. People tell us we were lucky, and maybe we were. But sometimes I wonder what it costs to come back. Our son survived, but something followed him out of those woods. Not something you can see, something quieter, something that taught him to listen. We only looked away for a minute, and whatever found our son did not rush. My name is Travis Henson. I grew up in Southwest Virginia. Hunting is not a hobby in my family. It is just what we do. I have been in these woods since I was old enough to walk quietly. I know the sounds. I know the smells. I know what normal fear feels like. This is not normal fear. This happened on November 19th. 2016. It was the first cold snap that really stuck, the kind that makes the leaves crunchy and the air feel thin. My brother Luke and I drove out before sunrise. We had permission to hunt a section of timberland near a ridge line. It was a place we had hunted before. We thought it would be routine. The ridge was steep and cut with old logging paths. There were pockets of laurel so thick you had to push through sideways. Creeks ran down into hollers that stayed dark even at noon. It was beautiful, and it was quiet. Too quiet. We parked at the gate and started walking in. Frost covered the ground like a skin. Every step felt loud. About 15 minutes in, Luke stopped and pointed. There were deer tracks everywhere, fresh, clean edges. Then there was something else mixed in, one set of tracks that did not belong. At first, I thought it was a bear, but it was wrong. The prints were long like a man's foot, but wider, and the toes did not look right. Not 5, not 4. It looked like too many, or like the front of the foot had split. Luke looked at me and said one sentence, "That is not a person." We kept moving because that is what hunters do. We tell ourselves there is always a reason, but then we smelled it, a hot, burnt smell, like a fire that never turns into smoke. It did not come from one direction. It came from the woods themselves. The smell sat in the back of my throat. We split up like we always did. Luke took the lower trail along the creek. I climbed higher toward the ridge. We kept radios on low. We agreed to check in every 30 minutes. If one of us did not answer, we would regroup. Simple, safe, normal. Around mid-morning, the woods changed. It was not dramatic. It was subtle. The wind died. Birds stopped. Even the creek sounded quieter. I remember thinking it felt like someone turned the volume down on the world. That is when I heard something that sounded like wood cracking. Not a branch snapping, but something heavier. It came in a pattern. Crack, pause, crack, like knuckles, like joints moving under pressure. I stood still and listened. It was not far. Then my radio hissed, and Luke's voice came through. He did not say my name. He just said, "Do you hear that?" I whispered back, "Yeah." Luke said, "Something is walking on the creek bed." I asked if he saw it. He said no, but it is not trying to be quiet. Then he added something that made my stomach go cold. Luke said, "It sounds like it is dragging something." I started moving downhill toward him, fast but careful. On the way, I saw a drag mark across the frost, a long scrape through leaves and dirt, like something heavy had been pulled. There were spots in the drag mark that looked dark, not red, dark, like old blood. I kept going. I found a deer about 50 yards off the trail. It was not eaten. It was not torn apart like predators do. It looked collapsed, like it had dropped dead mid-step. Its eyes were wide open. The mouth was slightly open. The strangest part was the coat. It had this gray dust on it. Ashy, like someone rolled it in fireplace soot. I backed away. I reached Luke near the creek. He was crouched behind a fallen log. His face looked tight. His eyes were wide but controlled. He leaned close and whispered, "It came through here." He pointed to the creek bed. There were wet prints in the mud, too long, too wide. Toes looked odd, and the mud around them looked disturbed, like something had stood there and shifted its weight. Luke said, "It is close." We heard a sound behind us, a voice, low, not loud, like someone speaking into your ear from 3 feet away. It was my voice. It said my name. It said, "Travis." I froze. Luke grabbed my sleeve and pulled me lower. He mouthed one word, "No." Across the creek, in the thicket, we saw movement. At first, it looked like a tree swaying, but there was no wind. It stepped forward. It was tall, too tall. Its limbs were thin like branches. Its body looked dark and textured, not fur, more like burnt wood. And when it moved, we heard that cracking sound again, like joints made of dry timber. It turned its head toward us. There was no face, the way a person has a face. There was shape. There was depth, but no features you could explain. And still, Somehow, we both knew it was looking directly at us, not past us, not around us, at us, like it had been waiting for us to notice. Luke raised his rifle. I did not. Something about it felt wrong to shoot, not because I was afraid, because it did not feel like an animal. It felt like shooting at a storm. The thing took one step closer. The smell hit us harder, that hot, burned scent. Luke whispered, "Back up." Slowly. We backed away without turning around. We moved uphill, slow at first, then faster. We did not run because running makes you loud and stupid, but the cracking followed, not directly behind us, off to the side, keeping pace, like it was hurting us. At one point, Luke stumbled on a root and caught himself. The cracking stopped. Silence. I held my breath. Then it started again, closer, like it reacted to weakness. We broke out onto an old logging path. The open space felt like relief. We kept moving toward the truck. Then we heard it behind us, closer than it should have been, not cracking now. A hard, heavy step, like something that did not care about stealth anymore. Luke turned and fired one shot into the dirt between us and the tree line. The sound echoed through the holler. The woods swallowed it. For a second, everything stopped. Then the smell surged, and something hit a tree so hard we heard bark explode. We did not look back again. We did not tell anyone what we saw. We just stopped going there. People hear the words White Mountains and think they understand what that means. They imagine trees, snow, scenic views, and a mountain you finish before dinner. They do not understand that this range behaves differently. I did not understand that either. This happened on March 6, 2017. On Mount Washington in the White Mountains. It is just over 6,000 feet tall. That number is the reason people die there. My friend Caleb and I were not reckless. We had experience. We checked forecasts. We brought layers, food, and emergency gear. The weather report said cold with wind. That sounded manageable. It always does. The hike began like any other winter climb. Cold air, packed snow, clear visibility. We passed a few hikers heading down. Everyone looked calm. No one looked worried. That should have been a warning. Mount Washington changes fast once you hit tree line. The trees stop suddenly. There is no gradual transition. One step, you are sheltered. The next, you are exposed to everything. The wind hit us sideways. Not a push, a hit. I had felt strong wind before. This was different. It did not just move air. It moved us. Standing still took effort. Walking took concentration. Talking required yelling inches from each other's faces. We checked our watches. We checked each other. Caleb suggested turning back. I said we should go a little farther. That decision still sits heavy with me. The weather did not build. It flipped. Visibility vanished in seconds. The horizon disappeared. The ground blended into the sky. Wind screamed so loud it drowned out thought. Trail markers vanished. Snow erased contrast. Every direction looked identical. I tried using my GPS. The screen lagged. The cold drained the battery faster than expected. The mountain was closing options. Cold stopped feeling like cold. It became sharp. My fingers burned, then went numb. My face felt stiff. Caleb said he could not feel his cheeks. That scared me. The wind knocked me sideways. I went down hard. Getting back up took longer than it should have. Caleb helped me. Then he slipped too. For a moment, he did not move. Over the wind, I heard someone speak. It sounded calm, close. I thought it was Caleb until I realized he was already yelling my name. Later, I learned extreme wind can cause auditory hallucinations. At the time, it felt personal. Caleb told me he felt tired. Not cold, tired. His eyes looked distant. His movements slowed. I knew what that meant. Hypothermia does not feel dramatic. It feels gentle. We turned around. That did not make things easier. Going down was worse. The wind pushed us downhill faster than we could control. Every step felt unstable. Falling became a real possibility. I clipped our emergency line between us, not because we planned to climb roped, because I did not trust either of us to stay upright. We moved together, slowly, deliberately. Caleb went down again, this time harder. His speech slurred. I dragged him forward until my legs shook. The wind did not slow. The cold did not ease. The mountain did not care. We found rocks that blocked some of the wind, not warmth, just less punishment. We crouched, we waited. Time stretched, minutes felt unreal. Rescuers reached us hours later. They had turned back twice before trying again. They told us conditions were near the limit of what trained teams attempt. They also told us something I will never forget. Most people who die on Mount Washington die less than a mile from safety. Caleb recovered. So did I. Physically, we do not hike that mountain anymore. Not because we fear death, because we understand the margin. Mount Washington does not chase you. It does not threaten you. It does not warn you. It simply exists. It does not matter how prepared you think you are, how small the mountain looks on paper, how many harder things you have survived. When the weather decides, it decides completely, and it does not care who you are.